Okay, welcome back to the On the Court podcast. As you can see today, we're doing something different. I finally got the video going, so let's see how we go. But as I said yesterday, if you listened to the last episode, I had just watched the Grizzlies versus Lakers game, and I couldn't bring myself to even talk about the Lakers. I didn't even feel like doing the episode altogether. But I pushed on. Okay, the show had to go on. I still recorded for you guys, but I couldn't talk about the Lakers. But then I went for a drive, went to the gym, got my head right, and I was like, wait. I should be talking about the Lakers to some capacity. So I decided to do an extra special, a Lakers special for you guys to talk about what my thoughts are on how the Lakers are currently going. Where do I see them going from here? And what things they need to fix if they are to actually become a contender. Because let's speak truthfully right now. They're not showing the signs of being a contending team. They're just not. When the team got constructed, I got excited. Maybe prematurely, I don't know. I'm sure a lot of more people were also excited and they thought that this Lakers team would go somewhere a bit further, it started a bit more strongly than they have. But we're here now, 13-13. We're a 500 team. We can't even break that 500 thing. We win one game and then we lose one. We win two games, we lose two. We win one, we lose three. Like it's just pattern where we just can't get that momentum going. And honestly, after the last game, it was honestly an embarrassment. Just watching that was hard. I had to push through and watch the whole thing, but I didn't want to. Halfway through the fourth, I felt like just getting up and just walking away. But I pushed on. Okay, I pushed on for the sake of being a fan, and it was hard. But the truth is that in recent, like the last few hours and stuff, just going through social media, watching these other shows, like there's been a lot of hate being talked about as the team as a whole, but also specifically, again, for Russell Westbrook. And I'm not even going to be doing that today because at the end of the day, and it's not just because he's my favorite player, okay? I will talk about him if he's done something bad and needs fixing. But the truth is that for the last 13, 12, whatever games it has been, he's been playing very well and he's starting to mesh with the Lakers system. But we're all going to have a bad game here and there. So I'm not even going to dwell on that too much. Yes, he had 6 turnovers, but LeBron had 5. And LeBron was also playing well before this game. He didn't play well last night. The team as a whole did not play well. But if I were to put the main blame across this stretch of time, I'll honestly have to put it on Anthony Davis. I've mentioned it on Twitter. I think I literally tweeted like 2 days ago. I said, we have to start having a conversation. Is Anthony Davis actually that guy? Or is he someone that we think he's that guy, but he's got his ring and now he's on vacation for who knows how long from actually being a competitive basketball player? Because just watching him, he has the glimpses of the old Anthony Davis that we know. He has moments in games this season where he's been a dominant force that we know he can be. But outside of that, he has not been what we want him to be. He seemed very laissez-faire. He seemed very casual about his play. He's not dominant. He's getting dunked on. He's getting pushed aside. He's not putting that drive in, and he's just not being an aggressive player. Okay, he's just not the AD that the Lakers wanted when they first got him. They got him for 1 year, and then since then, like last year, I think he was even worse than this year. But I could be wrong there. I wasn't a Lakers fan last year because Russell Westbrook wasn't on there. So I could be completely wrong there. So correct me if I'm wrong. But for the last couple of years, he just hasn't been the AD of old. And that's honestly going to be an issue for the Lakers because he is a pillar of this team. And without him being his best self, without him being his most dominant self that we know he can be, I don't know how far we can really get because yes, you can have Russell Westbrook playing well. You can have LeBron playing well, but the team as a whole is not really meshing well. And when you add in the fact that AD, a big pillar of that offense and defense, that should be at least, it's just rough to watch. Okay. It's just rough to watch. And I'm fingers crossed that we have like a good stretch now, even though I did expect them to win in Memphis. I am hoping to have a good stretch now. I mean, just looking at the ratings and stuff, like just looking at their offensive rating, efficiency, they're higher than the Oklahoma City Thunder, so that they're actually last. OKC's last in that regard. Our defense is very lackluster. It's right there in the middle of the pack. I think it's 14th I can see there. So the fact that we're turning over the ball so much, the fact that our defense is not right where it needs to be, and the fact that our offensive efficiency is actually not as high as you'd want it to be, considering the firepower that we could potentially possess with the pieces that we have on the team. It might be a rough stretch, but I'm fingers crossed that it's a good stretch. Okay, I'm fingers crossed that can actually pull it together. have a good win today, and that can lead into it. But if we actually look at the schedule, okay, let's look at the schedule a bit. They've got the Thunder today, which I expect them to win. Fingers crossed again. They got Magic. I'll be very surprised if we lose against the Magic. Then we've got the Mavs. Honestly, that could go either way. I'm not even going to say that the Lakers are going to crush them. I'm not even going to say that we're going to get crushed by them or whatever. I honestly think that can go either way, but I'm optimistic that we can actually pull out a win there. Now, the Timberwolves are playing really, really well now. So when we were struggling against them earlier in the season, people were like, you're struggling against the Wolves? Well, in actual fact, looking back now, the Wolves are actually becoming quite a good team. So now, going into versing them this time, I'm not as optimistic with that one. The Bulls, not optimistic at all. If we can pull out a win there, awesome. But I'm not optimistic at the moment. And then the Suns, the Suns will be playing them. The Spurs, I think we can pull out a win. I've already beaten them, I think, twice, if I'm not mistaken. So I reckon we can beat them there. And then we finally got the game that I'm waiting for all season, which is going to be the Christmas Day match. Well, here in Australia, it's going to be on the day after Christmas, is the Lakers versus the Nets. Super excited about that game. And while I feel that I feel like, I shouldn't be feeling optimistic going into how we're playing to versing the Nets have also been looking quite vulnerable, as you would have known, I would have said in previous episodes. And not even that. I feel like when they verse these big top-tier teams, like when LeBron's versing like the Durants, when Russell Westbrook's versing his old teammates, they bring out the best in them. And I actually feel like that could go anyway. And I'm actually really, really curious how that game's going to go. I'm super keen on it. I think it's going to be a great game. So let's see how we go for that one. But from what you can see, we've got a bit of easy schedule, and then we get into a harder schedule. And we really need to get some nice wins under our belts before we get to the harder schedule. Otherwise, it will be a tricky situation. I mean, we're teetering around the 500 mark as it is now. If we start falling under the 500 mark, it's going to have some conversations around what do we do with this team? What changes they have to make? Because right now, our defense is just not there. Like I tweeted last night, guard the freaking free. Like there's literally people just standing, just getting ready and shooting the free. I mean, they don't even have to like throw the ball up or anything. It's just so easy for the opposition right now to be shooting frees and getting the offense running. And the fact that we turned over the ball like crazy, I think it was 22, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was literally double than what the Grizzlies had in terms of turnovers. You can't have that because if you're not stopping, if you're not having stops, but you're turning over the ball so much and your offense is not even clicking, like it wasn't clicking that well in that second half of the last game they had, it's going to be a tough run. Okay, it's going to be a tough road ahead. So we've got to really find what we can do there. Now, can Nunn returning and Ariza, can that shift the balance? I don't see it. I think they just need an identity. They need an identity both on the offense. They need an identity on the defense. They just need an overall identity. Because right now, if I were to pinpoint 100%, if I were to pinpoint the main issue that the Lakers are having right now, it is that they're inconsistent. Okay, consistency is the biggest thing they need right now. They have some really solid wins, like the one from Boston. Like I said, I was ready to film that episode. I was going to be like, and I was going to be after the Grizzlies game where I thought they're going to dominate it again. And I was going to be like, yes, the Lakers are back like we know they can be. But then this happened. I couldn't even talk about the Boston win, whatever. Yes, it was a really dominant win. Awesome. But we can't have these dominant wins followed by these detrimental, embarrassing losses. And I get that the Memphis Grizzlies have been a really good team in the last 7 games. I believe I was looking at it and they've been the top, I think it's the top defense with Ja out, which is interesting because Ja is not known as being a defensive player. But it's weird when you look at a team doing better in one regard when their star player is out. But that's not to say that there are a better team without Ja. At the end of the day, Ja is that pillar of that team there. But at the same time, you're versing a team that's short on 2 of the best players that they have. We should have been more dominant. It shouldn't have been like that double-digit loss at least. It should have been a lot more closer at the end if we are going to lose at least. So it was rough. Like I said, like I didn't even want to film the podcast, so I had to do this special to talk about it. And yeah, it's just rough going. But what I feel like, a lot of people are talking about Frank Vogel. Now, I've been very upfront with the fact that I'm still in the learning side of things when it looks like, how well a coach, like how important a coach is to a winning team, depending on what the talent is on that team. But yeah, just something just is not meshing. And I don't know if it's Vogel's fault. I don't know if it's just a team up clicking. I don't know if the team just doesn't want it enough. I don't know if it's too many egos. I don't know if it's just that we're still getting used to basically the whole roster being different. I don't know what it is. But I do know that there has to be more consistency because inconsistent right now is killing the team. Like I said, good wins and bad losses. A couple of good wins, a couple of bad losses. A couple of bad losses, one decent win. And they haven't even been against like top tier teams yet. So once we get a win against some top tier teams, that's when we can start kind of really going, yeah, this team is finding its groove. But right now, without even a solid win streak, what can I say? I mean, what can any of us say? We need at least give me 4 games, 6 games, maybe just a 7-game win streak. Okay? It doesn't even have to be 18-game win streak. I'm not even expecting that this season. The fact of the matter is teams like the Warriors and the Suns have been meshing for a couple of years now, so we can't expect that. But just give me a 7-8-game win streak. Okay, that's not too much to ask. Please give me that win streak. But yeah, I'm not going to put the fault on Westbrook as a lot of people are. That's what I hate about the narrative around Russell Westbrook, and it's made being a fan of his a bit rough over the years. Not because I've been thinking, should I be a fan? It's been rough because I have to go on social media and read this garbage that people are putting out. Because basically, he has 13 good games. Oh my God, Westbrook's so good. Westbrook's this, Westbrook's that. He's bringing this team forth. And then he has one bad game, and then it's back to the old narrative. And it's just constantly like that. But we don't do that the same for other players. We're not talking about as much as how Harden is struggling and how he's actually quite up there with the turnovers as well. We don't talk about that because it's always if it's Russell Westbrook or if it's a LeBron team. And now put those two together, and you're getting all that negativity come out. So I'm not even going to be putting the blame on Westbrook. Yes, he didn't have a great game. He had a bunch of turnovers. He didn't shoot well. He didn't have a lot of points. He just overall did not have a good game. 100%. I'm not disagreeing with that. But am I going to put the blame on Westbrook when he's actually helped us win some other games or keep us afloat in other games leading up to this? Of course not. I can put the blame on LeBron. But at the end of the day, he had a bad game amongst a bunch of good games. AD is the one of the big three, the one who's had the least consistency with being solid and being dominant in this season. So if I were to put a blame, it would be somewhere between AD and the team not meshing in terms of defense. But last night, no one was playing well. Okay, no one was playing well. I didn't see solid defense in that second part of the game by anyone. The turnovers were coming from everywhere. Like Monk had that one late in the game where I was like, oh my God, we're getting those kind of turnovers now. It's not even like turnovers where you're like pass the ball and you get intercepted. It's not a turnover where like I think Westbrook stepped on the line for one of them. It was a turnover. I think he like dribbled and he hit his foot and it was ridiculous. It was just hard to watch. So the team as a whole just needs to find some unity. They need to find some offensive edge more than they are currently now. I mean, they have a lot of offensive potential there, but their defense just needs more work. I mean, it's said time and time again. This is not something that I'm just making up. Like people are talking about the fact that they're leaving players open to shoot. They're leaving players open to drive. They're not putting pressure, but they can actually play decent defense as they've shown in some games. And that's what makes it even more frustrating in some capacity because we know that they have it within them. But what are we to do? We're just here to hope that they find the togetherness by Christmas. I know I've heard some people say they're giving it by 2022 to see how this team is meshing. They've shown signs of brilliance, but they've also shown signs of crap. Just what it is, okay? But we need more from AD. We need more consistency from the team as a whole. We need, I don't know if a better coach would help. I don't know if Fizdale were to become the head coach, would that make a difference? Maybe. I think LeBron's got a pretty good relationship with their history. But right now, just something is not meshing and the consistency is not there. And they just look like they're scrambling. Like just watching a lot of their games, it's like, what are they doing? They just don't look coherent as a team. And it's team basketball at the end of the day. It's not solo basketball. It's not one-on-one. It's not 2-on-2. It's not 3-on-3. It's a team basketball. So, yeah. So now let's talk about, like, do I see them as being a playoff contender? Well, the potential's there. Like, the potential's there. You can't lie. Like, when they're meshing, they're meshing. But right now, I'm actually going to just go 50-50. Right now, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to become that competitor. Do I think they're going to make the playoffs? Yes. Like I just don't see them missing the playoffs. I think they'll at least be in the play-in, and I think they can scrap a win there to get into the playoffs. But right now, the way they're playing, especially if they're going to be at the bottom half, they're going to be versing some of those top-tier teams: Warriors, Suns, Utah Jazz. I mean, they're going to be versing one of those teams. And right now, do I see them going through with a first-round win? Not the way they're playing. They're just inconsistent enough. If they can't get like a 4-game win streak. How do I see them winning a 7-series playoff? I just don't see it. I just don't see it at this present time. So yes, I do see them going into the playoffs, but I don't see them becoming competitive beyond that unless they start meshing a lot more consistently, unless AD becomes the guy that we know he can be, unless he's completely not that guy anymore, which then we have to start talking about, is he going to be the next franchise player for the Lakers? Which at this present time, he's not looking like that. He's just not the AD that we remember. I remember because I was following the OKC at the time when there were discussions around bringing AD to the Lakers. And even then, I was like, oh my God, they're going to compare LeBron with AD. This is going to be crazy. They're just going to run through the field. Well, since then, he won 1 championship and he just, retired? Like, there needs to be more from AD. I think LeBron and Westbrook are meshing a lot more better. They had a bad game last night, I will say that. But overall, I'm seeing some positives. I'm seeing some solid positives going forward. But the team as a whole, there's just not enough. Even with the shooters that we have, there's not enough efficiency there. The defense needs work completely. Just need to reconstruct. We just need something else. Maybe can we bring in Miles Turner in some way? Like, is it possible to get some kind of package and get Miles Turner here, a stretch big who can maybe give us some more defensive edge? Maybe. But the way their roster's constructed now, I just don't see them having many assets that they can really use to bring in players that can make a difference. But I've been surprised before. Who knows? Maybe something can be thrown in. So we'll see. We'll see there. So yeah, I see them as being a playoff team, but I don't see them as being a playoff contender right now. And they're a first-round exit, just the way they're currently playing. That's just the reality. And that's even if they do get into playoffs. Keep in mind, I'm leaning towards more so them being in a play-in right now. And even then, it's a bit 50-50 if they get in. But I'm still being optimistic. Okay, I've got to be optimistic. It's the Lakers after all. You see the talent that's on the team, the Hall of Famers, future Hall of Famers, I should say, that are on that team. They have it within themselves to be a playoff team. But can they bring it in time together to do that? That's going to be the question. Okay, that's going to be the question they have to answer. So I guess we'll see. I mean, beyond that, that's kind of, I just wanted to kind of go on here and express myself, a bit of a rant of what I'm seeing. Kind of also, I guess, what's the word? Defend Russell Westbrook to some degree. I know sometimes it can be hard, but at the end of the day, we can't be having this narrative where a player plays well for a big stretch of time and then plays a bad game and then we hate on them again, because that's always been the thing with both LeBron and Westbrook have always got that hate, whereas other players don't seem to get it. AD is getting some hate at the moment, but not as much. And there's still a lot of discussions around, is Westbrook the reason that this is happening, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of talk about the coach. Honestly, if this keeps going like this, I wouldn't be surprised. At the end of the day, coaches are just fired like that these days. So Frank Vogel should be wondering if his job is compromised, because right now it very well could be, because that's just a reality. They're not going to just be cutting players willy-nilly. They'll be changing the coach. Yes, time will tell. I'm really optimistic. Like after I finish this podcast, I'll be waiting for the OKC game. We'll see how that goes. They've beat us twice in embarrassing fashion already. Let's hope that we can scrap a really solid dominant win today. But I just want to win. A win at all would be perfect. But if we can get a dominant win, I'll be happy. Okay. Yeah, I need this weekend to be saved after what I watched yesterday. Okay. I need to be saved. But yeah, like I said, that was just as a Lakers special. I didn't want to talk about too many about other teams. I guess that's all I really want to share for now. There's nothing really else to talk about. I guess share your thoughts. Okay. Share your thoughts below of what you're thinking about the Lakers. Are you a Lakers fan even? I don't know. Maybe I'm just here talking about myself. But yeah, we'll see how we go. We'll see how we go. At the end of the day, we need AD. So if I were to choose the things that we're doing, that we're starting to do more well, overall, Westbrook is meshing with the system a lot better. I don't care if he had a bad game. Overall, that's happening. Number 2 is we have offensive firepower that we really can harness. And number 3, what can we say for number 3? I can't think of a third one right now. So we'll stick with those 2. But in terms of things that we need to fix, AD needs to become AD. Okay. He can't be, what do people call him? I think it's A Disney. He can't be A Disney. He has to be AD. Number 2, we have to find a defensive identity. That's definite. And number 3, we need more consistency. Okay. We need consistency, especially winning against teams that we should on paper be winning against. And that's not to dismiss the other teams. But at the end of the day, there are certain teams that we should be winning against, especially in certain situations like last night. where they didn't have their players. It's just the truth. It's just what it is. So yeah, that's the things we really need to work on. So let's hope that they can make it mesh and hope for the best. I don't know. Like I said, I'm hoping maybe we can swing an extra player here that can give us an identity shift. Turner, there's been talks about that. I wouldn't mind that. He's a nice player. He's been shooting pretty decently from the free this season. And like I said, he's a stretch big. He's a good blocker. He has that defensive threat in him. So maybe that can shift our identity there. But I guess time will tell. We just got to wait. I'm just going to wait for the next couple of days. I'm hoping for a win in OKC and a win in Orlando. Against Orlando, I should say. And we'll see how we go. But yeah, that's all I want to talk about. I can't think of anything else. So yeah, we'll wrap this up now. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Talk to you soon. See you on the court.